My symptoms started with ankylosing spondylitis in my early 20s. My mid and upper back were really stiff, my neck was tight, it was hard for me to turn side to side, and my shoulders were affected. My right arm, especially my dominant arm, was really affected. I had so much pain, especially reaching overhead. The main symptom I got was though sciatica. Sciatica plagued me, into the hip, down to the foot sometimes. I'd be limping around, I'd be walking, my gait would be off, I'd be out of alignment. Sometimes I would just have to lay on the floor and just pray that that shooting pain would go away. It was hard for me to step down a certain way, so this would plague me every few months. You know, it would go away, but then when it came back, it was like worse and worse than the time before. So I was really worried about this. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I was very active. I was still playing pickup basketball, so maybe 1 week I was really active playing ball, feeling athletic, and then all of a sudden the sciatica would hit and I couldn't do anything. You know, people would be looking at me funny. A lot of people with AS know this, just kind of limping around, and you can't explain it. It's just, I was getting that shooting pain. It was just so painful and you just don't want to do anything. It's hard to even lay down with it. No position is comfortable. So, you know, I was definitely getting concerned from that because, again, 1 week I'd be feeling pretty good and the next week I'd be plagued with the sciatica, and that tightness was there in the upper body. So I was looking for answers. I was going to doctors, physical therapists, anyone. I was seeking out any professional. Please tell me what's going on with my hip. You know, because I still, youth sports, I was working in youth sports at the time. I was very active. I was coaching youth basketball. So I was like, you know, please help me here. How can I go on with my career like this when I'm limping around and people are looking at me funny? So I was going to specialist after specialist for my hips, for my shoulders. When the sciatica would come, I was going to physical therapy to see anything that I can do, but I couldn't get an answer. And this went on for years, kind of off and on, just the hip killing me, but then I would be back playing ball, feeling good. But I just couldn't get an answer. I'd be going to shoulder specialists. I actually had to get surgery on my right shoulder because of a torn rotator cuff and just a lot of damage in my shoulder, maybe from AS, just maybe from overuse and me being in this really inflamed position. So I actually had to get surgery. That was a really difficult surgery to recover from, but I'll get back to that later. So I was looking for answers. I couldn't get it. I had to get shoulder surgery. Years passed. I mean, this started in my early 20s, and I'm 25, 26 years old, and I'm playing soccer in a soccer league, and you know, I'm still able to play sports, but again, if the sciatica is there, I can't play. I have to take time off. So I'm playing in a soccer league, and I get a hip injury. So I had to go to the doctor, and I got an x-ray on my hip, and that x-ray actually showed that I had a lot of inflammation in my SI joint. A doctor picked up on this. So it was actually a freak accident that led to my official diagnosis of ankylosing spondylitis. So the hip x-ray showed sacroiliitis in your SI joints. One thing that really goes with ankylosing spondylitis is sacroiliitis, SI joint inflammation, and that's, you know, the answer to the sciatica, because I had a lot of inflammation in the SI joints that was leading to a lot of inflammation in my upper body, and that inflammation went down into my hip. It's very common that can cause that hip pain into the foot. So once we found that out, and my prior history of all this pain, we started to look into different things. The doctors kind of put it together pretty quickly. You have sacroiliitis. Let's test you for HLA-B27, which is also a genetic marker that goes with ankylosing spondylitis and other spondyloarthritis conditions. So I was positive for HLA-B27. We found out that I had a family history of HLA-B27 too, and I also had a family history of ankylosing spondylitis and spondyloarthritis. I had no clue. So when I was diagnosed, I was definitely shocked because, you know, ankylosing spondylitis is a pretty serious condition. At the same time, I was relieved because I was like, man, that hip pain, at least I have an answer, because that's the worst pain you can ever feel. Anyone that's had sciatica, sacroiliitis knows exactly what I'm talking about. You're limping around, you're just in so much pain. So I was a little relieved, but at the same time, you hear ankylosing spondylitis and you say, man, I was working in youth sports, I was working in training, I got interested in training because I was in so much pain, so much arthritic pain in my early 20s. I said, I want to help myself any way I can. So that's why I started investing myself in fitness, nutrition, and I was still working in youth sports. So that's why I started down that journey, because I was just truly in so much pain, my shoulders, and I love sports, I love fitness, I love movement, so I wanted to try to help myself the best way I can. So when I was diagnosed, you know, I was relieved, but I was also shocked. Ankylosing spondylitis, it runs in my family. What in the world is going to happen to me? You know, the first thing, people are alarmed when you have this. A lot of people's faces when you tell them that you have ankylosing spondylitis is usually of shock. You have it, oh my God, or, you know, are you okay? So It's definitely tough early on. You look online and, unfortunately a lot of the information is just about the pain you're going to endure, the tightness, the stiffness. The main pictures online, if you search ankylosing spondylitis, is people really rounded forward, which of course can happen to some people, not everyone, but this condition is very serious. So definitely concerned. Immediately the doctors, want to give you ways to treat it, but that's just my story about how I was diagnosed. I'll have later stories about kind of where I went from there. This was a little rambled. I just wanted to kind of go off the cuff with this story because it's difficult to piece this together. I was diagnosed when I was about 25, 26 years old. This is about 8 years ago at this point, so it was a while ago. And it's hard to kind of piece together the story because there's so many factors to it. Again, my symptoms started, I'm 33 now, my symptoms started when I was about 20, so that's 13 years ago. And again, people are searching for an answer for a long time. I actually started to develop a lot of health anxiety. Is something wrong with me? Because I'm going to the doctor and they're telling me that nothing's wrong with me, but I'm in all this pain. So again, years later, I can look back and I'm happy that I found out I had ankylosing spondylitis and I can start to treat it. Let me know in your comments below kind of your journey with your diagnosis. Did it take years for you to get diagnosed? Let me know how long it took you before you had symptoms started till you were officially diagnosed. Let me know that story. Keep going.